You know, like you wake up in the morning and you like look at the clock and the clock says 9:24 and you're like, I know exactly what color that is. Hello, welcome to Unstitched Podcast. You were hanging out with Vika and
Hannah.
Thank you, Hannah. It took a minute right there. Well done.
Oh my gosh. Is there like a delay? I feel like there's a
Maybe
delay
there is
happening.
a delay. I hope not. In today's episode, we're going to talk about getting into embroidery, give you some tips and tricks, talk about some crucial supplies that we cannot embroider without. And we're also introducing like 5 new segments, which is probably going to take half of the episode, just FYI. But all fun and games. Let's call it that. And there's a bit of controversial stuff in there too, so stay tuned. You didn't like your cozy vibes last time?
No. It was too dark because it was too early in the morning. So
there's no chance of me recording during the daylight because it gets dark at like 4:30 and you're still asleep at that point.
true.
It's like 6 a.m.
I know we both live in like the most foggy places.
It's true.
It's very similar, actually.
That's probably why we're connected so well. Just deprived of vitamin D people.
This morning, Miles woke up, and for anybody watching, if we leave this in, Miles is my middle kiddo, and he has a special place in a lot of people's hearts. Vika lovingly calls him Mushroom. He woke up this morning, he looked outside, and he threw up his hands in the air, and he said, "Oh, school's canceled today." I said, "Why?" He said, "I can't see anything outside, so I can't see it. It must not be there."
I love that he made that conclusion. Very, very smart kid.
That's not how this works, buddy. We're gonna still go to school. So, and I drove them today the like 2 blocks to go to school because I had something to do once I got to the school. And so I'm driving, and he's like, "Well, we're definitely not going to be able to go outside for recess. You can't even see the playground material. How are we going to play safely?"
Oh,
I was like,
that sounds
"Dude,
like
this fog's
Miles.
really getting you down." He was so upset. So then I was like, "No, I'm pretty positive you're going to have outdoor recess still." And he was like, "What? In this?"
Like as if he's not seen that kind of weather before. Come on.
Yeah, like we live in fog. It's just part of life here.
We
but
live in
he
fog.
was very affected by it this morning. It was cute. So, all right.
Fair enough.
Let's talk about embroidery. I wanted to talk about the beginning of exploring embroidery just because.
Yeah, why?
I don't know. We have different experiences. I grew up knowing about embroidery and stuff, but I never went shopping for myself until I was an adult. But like I knew what to look for versus you didn't even start embroidery until adulthood. So I'm interested to see if we have the same like essentials, if we have the same things in mind of like how we give advice to people if they want to start in embroidery.
Okay, yeah. I mean, mine is extremely simple, but let's start with yours.
I don't have a long list, but my essentials are a quality thread / floss of some kind, usually DMC needles.
We should talk about the difference later.
Which we'll talk about all, yeah.
The needles also we need to talk about.
Also, an embroidery hoop, also.
Duh.
Big topic.
That one we don't need to talk about.
And then some sort of fabric. And that's it. But that's like my bare bones. Like anybody can do basic embroidery with at least one of those items.
So there's 5 items: thread, needles, hoop, fabric, scissors. That's what you're saying? 5 things.
Yeah, that's what 5. What's your bare bones?
You know, for me, because I wrote it down a few times, like in the last couple of years, like for video making purposes. And I remember 5 things, but I don't think the scissors was on there. So I'm just trying to think if there's one thing that I'm missing.
You just go in with your teeth. You just go.
No, it's kind of like because if you're buying something,
everybody has a pair of scissors.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
like,
I see what you're saying.
Even if it's household scissors or even cuticle scissors, like it doesn't really doesn't matter.
Most people own.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like a crazy necessity for you to go out of your way and buy some.
Yeah. Okay, so what's your list?
Let me quickly find it.
And then I have non-essential items that I also think are important. And like, I can't really stitch without them, but I don't think everybody needs them in order to be able to embroider.
Absolutely. I have.
So I have a
It's
second list.
it's like a necessity, but on like a whole new level.
Yeah.
You don't really need it, but once you use it, you're like, oh, I can't do it without it now.
Yeah. And it's also like the difference of if someone's just going to stitch every once in a while or someone who does it as like a rigorous hobby or does it for a job. I feel like your list changes.
Hoop, thread, fabric, needles. I didn't get through to further. I think it was scissors. I'm so sorry for wasting your time. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So hoop, thread, fabric, needles, scissors. 5 essentials.
I feel like we could change that into okay, do you know Chicago the musical?
Nope.
Oh,
I'm not a musical
You're not really a
person.
musical person.
No.
I know.
I'm not a musical person, period. I'm not really a musical person.
That fascinates the heck out of me.
Why?
I don't know. I feel like I expect you to like musicals. Okay, well, there is a song in Chicago, the musical, where you like they're listing things
Yeah, okay.
of ways that women murdered their husbands.
Oh, nice.
But I'm sure you've heard the Cell Block Tango. Anyway, every time I list things like that now, I hear it as the song in my brain. Scissors, needles, hoops, thread. What's the last one?
Fabric.
Aha. Like, but I'll have to. And then it's
I
like,
see what you
she
mean.
had it coming. She had it coming. Or sorry, not she. He had it coming. I swear I know musicals. But anyway, in my brain, I sing that along to myself, but I sub in those supplies.
Fair enough.
Super crazy tangent.
So
we can just cut this out.
We'll see. Question for you. So you said that you wanted to talk about like starting out, like
Yeah.
kind of compare personal stories in a way, because we already talked about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I happened to never even heard of embroidery until I was like 22 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew that it was a thing, but it was never. It's like, I know that South Africa is a thing. Do I know anything about it? No.
But you've never gone to visit. Yeah.
Never gone to visit.
Yeah.
You wanted to compare our advice that we would give individually to people who want to start out. So what would be your advice? Like, how would you advise people to let's do a skit. Hi, Hannah. My name is Jika. How are you doing? I admire your work. Please, I really want to try embroidery and can you help me? Like, where do I start? I know nothing about it. I'm 22 years old. I've never heard about it before. So, please.
Jika. What a unique name.
Jika.
You couldn't come up with like any other name.
No, but there is a really nice sauce. I believe it's Georgian, and it's called ajika. And I literally just bought some rye bread that had that flavor. Rye bread. It's freaking delicious. Stop mocking my nickname. I name my nickname.
Jika. Well, I'm going to call you.
No, please don't.
Call you Jika from now on. Okay, I need to. All right. If I were meeting you for the first time and explaining what I would think to do, I would tell you to go to any local craft store. So Michael's, Joann's,
Hobbycraft here in the UK, maybe.
Yeah. And I would tell you to go to the embroidery specific section and look for DMC floss because that's pretty easy to find in most stores. Like it's kind of like an iconic looking thing. Like you see them. It's very
they
specific.
definitely dominate the West.
Oh, yeah. So that I would just say to go to that just because it's convenient and we know the quality is good. So I would say go to that. I would pick out 2 different colors of your choosing just so people can kind of explore a little bit. And then I would say if you need to buy an embroidery hoop, I recommend people to buy the plastic ones over bamboo because bamboo is crap and it breaks so bad. I taught a class on Wednesday. I teach at the University of Oregon in the Craft Center, and I'm teaching a beginning embroidery class. And I was talking about materials, and I brought some Nurge hoops, which I sell. But the Craft Center had a couple like bamboo hoops hanging on the wall.
Did you put them in the trash can, please?
No. So I was telling the class, I was like, listen, I'm going to spoil you. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry, because you are going to start off your embroidery journey with like the best high quality stuff. And I'm going to ruin other products for you, but like this is why. And I went up to the wall and I just grabbed, I wasn't even really looking, and I grabbed it and I went to go show them. I was like, these are inconsistent. They have gaps. And I like held it up and it legit was split. like the outer hoop was already broken, and I was like, I can't even
Uh-huh.
make this up. Like, I swear I didn't stage this. So I tell people to reach for the plastic ones first if they're going to go to like
Mhm.
a normal, because at least the
Yeah, that
plastic
makes sense.
ones are most likely not going to warp and break. They don't have the best hold, but
Mhm.
like the plastic ones are fine.
They're just
And
ugly.
flexi hoops, yeah, flexi hoops that are made by other companies. Like I know Anchor makes some flexi hoops, and there's some like China companies that make them where the tension is not very tight. So I
Mm.
don't recommend for people to try flexi hoops for
I
the
mean,
first
I
time.
would not recommend flexi hoops, period. They're so
Yeah,
annoying.
I love them.
They're
I
so
stitch in
hard
them
to
all the
use, I have
time.
no idea how you do that.
But I think it's just because I have access to them all the time because
Mhm.
I sell them. So I've gotten used to using them.
Yeah, but no. It's too hard for me.
But we all know that beechwood hoops are king. Those are the best ones. And so
Mhm.
some hobby stores are starting to sell beechwood hoops, which I love.
But not all equal. I've had some beechwood hoops that are so flimsy, like, it might as well be bamboo
Yeah.
made.
Well, and the hardware matters too that's on the hoops. Like, so, if they have the hardware that's like got like it almost looks like it's been nailed into the top. If you go to tighten it all the way, the hardware will start to like buckle and
Like,
pull off
lift
of the
up.
wood.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then, so they're not all created equal either. Yeah, that's true. So I would tell somebody to do that. I would tell them to reach for a Chanel needle.
What is that?
A Chanel needle is one that's got like a really big eye hole,
I've never heard of that
and it's
needle
still
before.
sharp. I think they're sold in the
Is
UK
it a
too.
brand, Chanel, or is it a type of
No,
needle?
Chenille.
Never heard of
Chenille?
it.
Am I saying it wrong?
I think it doesn't matter how you say it, but I've never even seen that in writing.
Yeah, they have large eye holes,
Mhm.
and they're still point sharp on the end. So for someone who's starting out who like doesn't have the best luck with threading, because I'm trying to set people up for success. So I'll recommend those needles first, followed by a needle that you introduced me to,
Yes, please.
which is a Milner, and then or I would recommend classic embroidery needle.
Mhm.
So, and you can find all of those in at least the American
Yeah.
embroidery
So
section.
you would literally send me to a craft store, to the embroidery section, and give me some
Mhm.
pointers on what to get and what not to get, and then what else?
Mhm.
Like, where do I go with that? I bought some supplies, what do I do next?
Yeah, and then I would tell you to go home and
Thank
just
you.
YouTube basic embroidery stitches and like basic how-to videos, which I think both of us have made at some point in time.
Okay.
But yeah, I think other than that, and fabric choice, which I
Mhm.
think because I work with fabric all the time, I
Mhm.
recommend fabrics that don't have any stretch in them, like an 100%
Yeah.
cotton of some kind or a
Mhm.
linen blend, because I think that makes a difference too. And then just a pair of scissors that's sharp.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I like, straight away my pointer would be is, like, get a brand. Like, look at it. If it has a
Yeah.
brand, like, literally embossed on it, I don't know what the word is, like, in metal on the
Mhm.
scissors, then
Mm.
buy it, because brands will
Oh.
probably try and make it a good quality.
Yeah.
If it's unbranded, and there's nothing on the scissors itself, like, not a little mark of a brand, then it's gonna
Mhm.
be
Mhm.
trash.
My advice does change though depending on if someone tells me they're trying to do it on the cheap. Like if I'm talking to someone who's like,
Mm.
I just want to have like an affordable craft, I will like that would be my basic. If it's someone who's saying, I want to be successful at embroidery, tell me the things like I don't want to have to mess around with the bad stuff. Tell me what to buy. And I would recommend kind of completely different things. Like I would tell people buy the gold eye milliners
Mhm.
for needles. I would tell them buy Nerge embroidery hoops. If you can afford a 16 millimeter versus an 8 millimeter, I recommend going with a thicker hoop. This is a classic 8 millimeter. It's not very wide. So, and it works.
It's
They're
so
fine.
much better than anything else. But there is a more premium option.
Yeah, but a 16 is double the width. So it's like two of these side by side. And it is the, I don't know why, but the addition of having just a little bit more of a hoop to grab your fabric and like fasten it in,
Mhm.
and to hold it. Like for anybody who has like dexterity issues, to hold a hoop that's thicker in your hand is so much easier
Yeah, it
than
is.
holding something that's thin. And if you really want to be bougie, there's also a 24. So
Yeah.
twice, like a whole inch, which I also sell. People don't buy them nearly as much because they are expensive, but it's because you're getting like a solid hunk of wood.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of annoying how the price gaps in between those is quite a bit higher than you would think.
You can see it's such a difference in a stitching experience. And I feel like if you want to set yourself up for success, if you buy quality materials that are not going to fail you, you are going to enjoy the process so much more. And then
Yeah.
I recommend Kai scissors. There's a branch local to me, and those are the scissors that I use for everything. I have these little bent scissors that are $15 scissors. They're pretty inexpensive for scissors. They are so sharp. I have cut myself so many times using them,
Mhm.
but they're not amazingly beautiful to look at. Like a lot of embroidery scissors are very decorative. They're designed so well for what you need when you're
Mhm.
stitching. Like if you want to cut up something where you made a mistake, because they're bent, like your hands don't get in the way.
Mhm. You know, my rotary cutter is made by Kai, and I
Mhm.
love that thing so much.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that
I
either
know.
until I needed to buy a new blade, and I was like, "Okay, what is this?" And I was like, "Ooh, it's familiar."
My favorite brand. Yeah. So, and then I would recommend Kona cottons because Kona is a pretty well-known collection of fabrics that's all solid colored 100% cotton. Sometimes their dye batches don't match though, which their consistency sometimes is a little flawed. Like there's a specific red color, I can't remember the name of it, but it is not always the same color. But overall, it's reliable and you can get it in almost any hobby store.
Yeah, I recommend Kona as well.
So that's what I would recommend.
So you wouldn't necessarily send people to, like, buy a full
Mm-mm.
beginner kit?
No.
Why not?
Because I think if you truly want to be, I mean, I guess maybe you could find an artist you love, buy a beginner kit where
Mhm.
all the stuff is handpicked for you.
Mhm.
In my experience, though, I would get so, because as we stated last episode, I have imposter syndrome. If
Don't we all?
mine didn't look exactly like the like sample picture,
Mhm.
I would be like, F it, I quit because I'm crap. Even though, like, I know it's
Oh,
my
I
first
see.
experience stitching, I would rather practice on like just a plain piece of fabric and like just learn stitches. That's for me. I work better that way. If I just sit down and like,
Mhm.
today I'm going to learn backstitch and I'm just going to do a bunch of back stitches. And then maybe after that, after I like feel like this is something
Mhm.
I want to do, then I would invest in a high quality embroidery kit made by a small business artist, not from Amazon
Mhm.
or Temu.
The new kid on the block. Okay, I totally understand your point with if your first embroidery from a kid doesn't look exactly the same as the what you'd imagine it can look, then I could
Yeah,
see how that can bring you a little bit down. But and that's a big but for me because I think that that's really dependent on the person and also their
that's true.
expectations and it's kind of like a hit and miss in my mind, like, I wouldn't necessarily consider that as a reason not to, because
Mm,
myself personally, I would that's literally it. Go and find an artist whose artwork you love and
mm,
see if they sell beginner kits. If they don't, just, like, try and look for something that you will like, a piece of art that you would enjoy and the person who sells the beginner kits get it from there. And I can tell you why exactly is my that would be my first recommendation. And it's because working on a project that's big enough and intriguing enough will spark the joy in it in the process. So you
mm.
mentioned like, oh, I'm gonna go practice backstitching. I mean, fucking boring, Hannah. That's so boring. That's not gonna get anybody excited for embroidery. We're gonna like, how about you do some back stitches back to back for 3 hours, and then you can try something harder.
But I also wonder if the way I learned impacts the way that I would recommend for other people to start out, though, because, like, I learned growing up as a little kid with my grandma who legit was like, "Here's how you do this stitch. Now go leave me alone. I love you, but
Practice
please
it. Yeah.
go into the other room and practice."
Yeah. I get
And so I
that.
think because that's the way I learned, I wonder if that's why, like, my advice would be, like, practice a little bit first.
Yeah.
And in my embroidery classes, when I teach beginning embroidery, I bring them a kit, like a pattern that I made
Mhm.
with all of the materials so they have it. But before we start on it, I give them a tiny hoop with all of the other stuff, and we sit and we practice the stitches first as a
Like,
group.
it kinda makes sense. It's like learning how to write, like you write sticks and hooks
Yeah.
and that stuff, and then you connect it to letters. That's what it reminds me of. So it's like
Yeah.
truly from 0, literally from 0.
Yeah.
So I like, again, I get it. If you're an adult, you're probably not gonna particularly, again, my opinion, enjoy being taught as a child kinda thing. I'm not trying to shit on your
Yeah.
workshop or anything like that. This is just my opinion since we're talking about
I
it.
mean, we don't spend, like, 20 minutes doing it. We just, like, do it real quick a couple
Yeah,
times,
I
then
know.
I walk around like,
No, I
"Anybody
get
got
it, I get it.
questions?"
Again, I'm not trying to shit on it. Like, you do you. Whatever works. This is me. I would literally advise people to go for a full beginner kit made by an independent
Mm.
artist because they will know what they're doing. They will know what they're selling. They've already tried everything. They want to serve you the best that they can. And if you can afford a
Mm.
higher end kit, then kudos to you. Like, that would be the best thing to do. Because, and this is not controversial, sorry, trying to find my words. This is literally the opposite to your experience because you're teaching people the way that you were
Uh-huh.
taught. The way that
Yeah.
I taught myself embroidery is I went and bought everything. I bought
Mm.
17 different hoops. I bought all the needles, all the needle types that I could see in the shop. I bought shitload of fabrics. I bought literally all of it just to see what's best. And that's how I
Mm.
found the majority of the best stuff. But it
Yeah.
was incredibly expensive and time consuming that I didn't have
Yeah,
to
and I'm
go to
sure
all that
frustrating
trouble.
too.
Yeah, extremely frustrating because some of that stuff, like, I don't know what to do with it, like, go donate it
Yeah.
somewhere maybe. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
still sitting on some
Yeah.
of it that I haven't gotten rid of. Yeah, so I'm teaching the opposite way of how I taught myself,
Mm.
which is interesting.
I mean, we do both provide kits for people at the
Mhm.
beginner level.
Ye
So, I mean, I agree. I think it also, though, depends, like, again, price point, I think, too.
Mm.
Like, if someone is saying, like, "I just wanna start," like, kits are too expensive, which
But they're
most
expensive for a
small
reason.
independent artists yeah, because we spend the time curating all because we did all of that work for you and bundled it up in this nice convenient package, of course, it's going to come with a cost of that other person's hard work. But I do understand that some people, like, maybe they only have $10, $15 to be able to and they could go to a local hobby store and buy all of the stuff that they need for around that
I know,
price.
but, like, okay, here is my problem. Here's my, like, legit, that's a problem that I'm dealing with because I know where I stand with this particular
Mhm.
question, and I could hear all the arguments, and I get it to an extent, but the problem for me is that the way that I'm grateful to embroidery for helping me with my anxiety and legitimately changing my life and,
Mhm.
I value it so much, and when I hear stories of people going to Amazon for a kit or, buying whatever they
Mhm.
were told by some random person on the internet to buy, and then it turns out that it doesn't work for them or it breaks or it doesn't work well, they're like, "Well, I'm not gonna try again." You know what I mean? Like, I've already wasted this
Mm.
money
Yeah.
on this stuff, and it's
Mhm.
not working, and I'm like, "Well, you were misled, basically."
Yeah.
If you would have spent just a little bit more money, and I know, like, not everybody can afford whatever. Totally get that, and there is
Yeah.
an issue with that because you get what you pay for,
Totally.
and it
Yeah.
only applies. So I always say, like, if you can afford, or you can maybe try and save up and afford a
Yeah.
better quality thing, then it will be worth your while because it's not going to put you off of this art form. And it
Mm.
breaks my heart, honestly, when people are like, even in my family, like, I've had people in my family that would try a craft and they'd just be so frustrated with what arrived from Amazon that they'd never finish
Yeah.
it, and even though they might
Mm.
actually fall in love with it if it was the right kind of stuff. I'm very passionate
Yeah.
about this, so, like,
Yeah. I haven't thought of it from that perspective before, and I agree.
okay. Well,
I'm the other part is in today's economy, yes, everything is expensive, but if people can afford to buy themselves a hot coffee from a coffee shop every day for $6-7 a day. If they can go without that coffee for a couple days, they should be able to, like, I know my kits start out at like $40-$45. Like, I know some artists make them for like 30-35, and they're still pretty high quality, like it's not that much money to start up versus other crafts and art forms that are hella expensive. So,
Yeah, exactly. It's actually like in retrospect, it's not actually that expensive, even if you go for the higher
no.
quality stuff compared
Yeah.
to other types of art forms and crafts. Like
Yeah.
the watercolor not kit set that I got. It's literally just like
Mhm.
24, maybe 36 little watercolor things in the case.
Yeah.
It cost me like 60 quid.
Ooh.
I mean, it's a branded thing, and it was recommended by another artist just for one color. Like, it didn't even come with anything else. It's just literally watercolor.
Yeah, just the paint.
Yeah, just the
Wow.
paint.
Yeah, and I guess, like, I also come from a quilting background, so for me, like, the startup costs for quilting are way more expensive
Mm.
than a startup cost for doing embroidery that literally travels with you and you can take it anywhere,
Mhm.
versus, like, a sewing machine alone costs hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Well,
basic
exactly.
ones may be
Like,
cheaper, but,
people stop
like,
crying if I'm embroidering being so
yeah.
expensive. It's not.
Yeah, so I guess if you are watching this and you don't embroider and you want to start, just go for the nice stuff. It will set you up for success a lot more than if you buy
And for joy,
the
like,
bad
that's the
stuff.
main thing is the joy of it.
Yeah.
Mm. Okay.
Okay, so based on this, because, okay, what are your non essential essentials?
Okay, number 1, and that thing I cannot embroider without is a USB clip-on reading light.
It's in like so many of her videos, you guys. If you
Oh,
go
yeah.
onto any of her social media, it's on almost every video.
I do
You
not
see it.
embroider without it. It's a
Mm.
basically really bright little light that I can maneuver. It's like on this metal thing, and it can go whatever way I want it, and whatever way I twist it, like, it stays there, so I can maneuver it whenever I want, however I want, and it just clips on my hoop just perfectly, and I actually hold my hoop by the light that's clipped onto the hoop, which gives me this thick amount of grip, which is literally
Mm.
amazing for, like, arthritis prevention and, you
Yeah.
know, from pain as well. So that's my literally number 1 for sure. I would recommend. I mean, it's like 15 bucks and it lasts forever. Like, charge it and then you use it for a week and then you charge it again. It's like, oh, it's the best thing ever. Like, I've literally put so many onto it. So many people.
I know you have.
Yeah.
I don't own one.
Yeah.
And
Why, bitch?
I don't know. I think also because I own a canvas lamp, which,
Mhm.
I mean, anybody who knows me, I'm a walking advertisement for them. And
Mhm.
also I have made advertisements for them because I just love their lamp. And that's more for like a social media, like,
Yeah,
shooting
but that's
standpoint. But
also
because
stationary. You can't take that with you on the go.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I have a Stella light. But also I don't know, I guess maybe for me, lighting has never really been an issue while traveling.
Well,
Do you wear contacts? Do
no,
you?
my eyesight is perfect.
Mine is too.
Yeah,
I
but trust me. You get
mm,
one, you're never gonna wanna embroider without it. Just trust me. I thought I was
maybe
okay
that's
as
why I
well.
haven't gotten one.
Yeah, I mean, like, I didn't get it
'Cause
out of necessity necessarily. I just started
yeah,
stitching with a single strand, and it was, like, just a little bit difficult. I mean, I could still see it fine, but I needed more light, but I was like, "Oh, I wonder if there's anything small." Yeah, it's so small that it's literally the best, the best. Buy one, Hannah, buy one.
okay, I need to buy one. All right, I'll do it. I'll get one. Okay, so is that your only non-essential essential? That little clip-on light, or
No,
do you have other
I
things?
also have needle minder written down because that's absolutely amazing little freaking thing that I now collect and make also, but
Yeah.
yeah, needle minder for your needle.
I collect them. They are not on my non-essential essential list.
They're not.
No, and I used to use them a lot. I just, like, sandwich it
Yeah, but when
in
when
the
you have oh, you put it
fabric.
in the hoop?
Yeah, like, I
Oh,
weave it into the
yeah.
fabric on the side, or I have a little tin that I take with me everywhere that Wendy
I use my tin all the time. Same. Wendy, you're gonna need to make some more tins, please.
You need to make more tins, you need to sell them. I'm obsessed.
Me too. I
And
use it
that
all the
little
time.
tin, it is a needle minder because she put magnets on, like, the
Yeah.
back of the top, and so I just chuck my needles onto, and because, again, for me, because I have multiple layers of fabric, sometimes needle minders, like, bother me because I constantly have to move them depending on
Hey, okay,
what
that
I'm
makes
working
sense.
on, and so for me, having that little tin next to me, so I guess I would say maybe, and then it's the thimble pads, the leather thimble
Oh,
pads
yes,
that
yeah.
we both love by Colonial Needle.
They're the freaking
I
best.
have punctured my fingers so many times because I push with my middle finger, I push my needle through the
Mhm.
back, and because I'm stitching all the time, I mean, that it's like a full-time job, so repetitively.
Kinda, do you have, like, good guitar fingers, but only one?
Yeah. Yes, I have, like,
Yeah,
rough spots on my thumb and on my middle finger from, like, where you grab the
same,
needle and where you push the
same.
needle. And then I also a quality embroidery stand, which, again,
Mm,
I love my tabletop stand. I would say those 2 items are probably my big ones that I just can't really stitch without.
okay. I have more. I have a Pilot friction pen, the heat erasable
Oh,
pen
I
for
knew you were gonna
transfers.
have that on. Yes.
Yeah, that's a must. I mean, there's different kinds of heat erasable pens, but friction pen makes the best
Mhm.
ones. Quite a bit of options
Agreed.
in there. And then I also have niche thingy, and it's a fabric stabilizer for clothing. It's iron-on nonwoven interfacing or backing. It's
Mhm.
called. It has a few
Yeah.
different names, but that's for
Mhm.
clothing embroidery. If anybody's interested, you have to put it on the back of your embroidery before you start embroider so that it stabilizes the fabric and you embroider through it and it stays on
Yeah,
there.
then it doesn't stretch and get all, like, out of like, warped and stuff. Yeah, that is a good one.
Yeah. And I really want to quickly talk about Milner's needles because, and we'll come back to it in a minute when we talk about different people. Today we have so many segments to go through. We're finally bringing in segments that we've thought of for this
All of the
podcast.
segments.
I think we're doing like 4 segments or 5 segments later.
I think so. Yeah.
But I just quickly wanna talk about the, Milner's needles. So they are not as popular as pretty much any other type of needle. They're pretty rare.
I had never heard of them before you.
Yeah, only a few companies make them. Clover makes them, Millward makes them, Hemline makes them. These are 4 brands that I know for sure make them. If you've never tried a Milner's needle for embroidery, no matter what kind of embroidery you do, just buy one. Just buy a pack. It's gonna cost you $2. Just buy it. Test it out. It's the best, honestly.
They are, I feel like, a little bit more sturdy, like, they don't bend as much
Mhm.
as, like, a classic embroidery needle, and the width of the needle is the same from the tip all the way to the end, right?
Yeah, exactly,
Like,
that's
or
the
there's not
thing.
very
Mhm.
much difference. So, like, when you poke your hole in, it's not gonna make it bigger as you push the needle through the
Yeah,
fabric.
exactly, and again, we will come back to this because in one of the segments, I'm gonna bring up a controversial thing, and we can talk about it then. Because Hannah, I have
Ooh,
hidden
okay.
a segment from you that I've literally thought about the other day. We're gonna do it.
Okay.
We're gonna do it last, or maybe not last, but I'm excited.
Okay.
Sorry for keeping it a secret from you.
No, it's fine. It's kind of exciting. So yeah, I don't think I have really anything else. It really is just the just to stand in those thimble pads. I think that
Okay.
does it for me in terms of, oh, I also highly enjoy thread conditioner, which is not a necessity. I just
Okay.
enjoy it.
Somebody messaged me about it today, and they asked me if I conditioned my thread, and I said no because they were like, "I wanna fix these issues," and it was issues nothing to do with thread conditioning.
I don't use it all the time.
So why would you use one? Tell me.
So for me, a thread conditioner, for anybody who's new to embroidery or just has never heard of it before, it sounds like exactly what it is. So if you think about like what conditioner does for your hair, it's what does the same thing for the fibers within your embroidery thread.
Mhm.
I love Snitches Get Stitches. Not Balm is what she calls it. Her name's Brie, and there's a bunch of different scents, and there's different bases for them too. Some people just use plain beeswax. Some people use coconut oil based ones or soy based ones, but they all essentially do the same thing, which is it just coats the outside of your thread so that it allows for a little bit more of a smoother sewing experience. You don't have to use them, and some people do say like it will damage the thread. Like I've heard people, like purists will
Mm.
say do not use a thread conditioner because it could degrade your thread over time, which, like, I think that's being a little bit dramatic. It can stain a little bit sometimes, like and there can be like a little bit of like a residue that some people don't like. And I don't use it all the time, but I do use it for black embroidery floss. Any brand of black embroidery floss is, for some reason, the fuzziest floss. Like DMC 310 is overly fuzzy and it drives me bananas.
It has more problem than just fuzziness too.
Oh my gosh, color match. Yeah, don't even get me started. But I've found that if I use thread gloss or thread conditioner of some kind, it makes it so much smoother. And then I don't get as much knotting. Like, sometimes your thread just like knots if
Yeah.
you're like,
Mhm.
that doesn't happen as much if you condition your thread. So
Yeah.
that's my other non-essential.
Fair enough. So I thought of some, not necessarily things to buy, except I have
Mhm.
one thing, but just like little tips to get people started embroidery, I guess. But first, one last thing on my list to buy is a thread card, which DMC makes
Oh,
really
yeah.
good ones. DMC, again, embroidery thread brand. They have so
Mhm.
many different types of embroidery floss and also yarns and stuff, but they make thread
Yeah.
cards for pretty much all
Mhm.
all of the types that they make. Inexpensive. I think it costs like £30, so it'd be like $40, something like
Yeah.
that
Yeah, they're not that
for the
expensive.
general thing, and it gives you literally actual thread swatches for every single color that they do
Mhm.
have, color coded.
And DMC does have one that's just the colors, and then they have one that's more expensive that has little pieces of cardboard that are actually wrapped with the physical floss that are glued down. So they have 2 options.
Yeah, so they have like a printed one, and then also the
Mhm.
actual thread. I've never owned a
Yeah.
printed one, so I can't vouch for it, but I have
I have one of each.
ones, and they are awesome because they're literally using the pieces of thread in there, so you can see exactly
Yeah.
what the color is. I would absolutely recommend those. If we turn the question back to DMC or other brands of thread, there is Anchor,
Mhm.
which is a rival of DMC. By the way, DMC is French, fully made in France from the beginning.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
Anchor, I believe, originated in Eastern Europe somewhere.
I recently was gifted this. It's a brand called, I wanna say it's Finca,
Hmm.
and yeah, and I was sent a thread card. I've never tried their threads, but I know that there are other brands, not just DMC and Anchor and, like, JP Coats.
There's Appleton's. There's actually a bunch. There's Rico.
There's a
Rico's pretty much
bunch.
a new kid on the block with embroidery thread.
And if you have a favorite embroidery thread that you like that's not DMC, I wanna hear about it. So let us know in the comments.
That's actually we could turn DMC versus Anchor, or just talk about embroidery thread in the whole episode.
Mm,
Actually, we should, I think, because there's a lot
we
of insight.
should.
There's so much that you can know and learn about it, that will help you make better decisions for your embroidery and things like that.
Mhm.
But generally, I would say if you don't know what you're doing, go for DMC, and I'll give you one reason why. In the West, it is the staple. It is available everywhere. You will not have issue finding it. If you try and go for
Mhm.
Anchor or some other one, you will most likely find it very difficult to find it in different places and things like that. If you're purchasing embroidery patterns from other embroidery artists and things like that, they will most likely give you a DMC color codes.
We also, though, are very big
Oh yeah.
fans of Sulky,
Oh, I
which we
can't believe how we
completely.
didn't even notice that.
But also, it is not a traditional embroidery thread, so I think that
Mhm.
that's what, like, our brains don't go there.
Yeah, spools. Definitely don't think about that when I think of embroidery thread. Again, we could
Right.
make embroidery thread a whole new
We'll have to
episode.
do a
We
whole
should do
episode.
that. We should
Yeah.
do that.
Okay, deal.
Oh, wait, because we started talking about the thread card, because that was the last thing on my list that's physical
Oh,
thing to
yes.
purchase. But I was gonna just bring up a couple, literally like 2 or 3 tips
'Kay.
for beginner embroiderers, basically. One of them is called a quilter's knot. This is the knot that every single
Mm.
embroiderer needs to learn from day 1,
Mhm.
and nobody
Mhm,
talks about it.
mhm.
People often don't know what its name is, and it's a very
Mhm.
simple knot to make that you will fall in love in, and you're never gonna make another different kind of knot. So literally go YouTube or quilter's knot and learn how to do it. It's dead easy, and
It
it's
is
gonna give you a perfect little knot every time.
it is a knot that we both use,
Yes.
and I think we both have tutorials on them at some point in
Yeah,
time
I've
on
made
social
multiple.
media.
Every
Yeah,
time I
yeah.
include my knot in any kind of video, everybody's like, "What's this knot? What's this knot?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the best. Agreed.
Oh, and the second one was fabric tension for me. So I am
Mm.
a very, very big proponent. I don't know English words. I stand
Yeah.
by fabric tension. If your fabric
Same.
does not sound like a drum top while you're embroidering, you're doing it wrong, in my opinion.
I had someone once argue with me that having loose tension on fabric is actually sometimes beneficial. Unlike one of my videos where
Yeah.
I talked about, like, it should be tight as a drum, and then I, like, hit it like a drum, and so it was like, actually.
I don't see a single reason why you would benefit
Me
from
either.
loose fabric. Because if your
Mm-mm.
fabric is loose, then your stitches are loose. Your stitches are loose, it looks like a piece
Yeah.
of shit.
It's the same thing, like, you don't see painters ever paint if they're using canvas, you don't ever see them do it on, like most artists use stretched canvas that's, like, pulled nice and tight.
And primed to make it hard. Yeah.
Yeah, like, you wouldn't see charcoal artist or somebody drawing on a piece of paper that was, like, all crinkly either, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
everything it works better when it's smoothed out. That is actually, like, one of my biggest pet peeves if in other artists' work, like, it bothers me if I see
I
that
agree.
the hoop is loose,
The only thing I can think
which
of
I don't wanna be
as
judgy.
an argument, I don't wanna be judging either, just kinda depends on people's backgrounds and things like that, like,
Yeah,
you never
yeah,
know, so you better leave judgments behind, but, opinions here, not
yeah.
judgments. The only argument I can think of for looser fabric is clothing embroidery if you're not using
Oh,
fabric
yeah.
stabilizer. Because if you are using
Yeah.
fabric stabilizer, you should be okay. Oh, but also another one, if people overstretch their fabric, then that's an issue.
Mm.
A little bit looser is better than overstretched, but then that could be argued with again. So I don't know, there's
Well, and
really
I think it also depends on the weave of your fabric too, like, if we're gonna get into it,
mm,
I prefer to work with batik fabrics because the weave is very, very tight.
it's like
So, like
microscopic. It's actually
yeah,
crazy.
and because of that, like, fraying doesn't happen as much versus, like, if you start pulling even just, like, a basic cone of cotton and you pull it and you over pull it, you will start to see the, like, weaving of the fabric actually give, and, like, you don't want that. You don't wanna degrade the fabric.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
exactly.
I agree
You
with
would
you.
think that people would
Yeah.
think about that. I don't
Mm.
know. Anyway.
Oh, also though, I would argue then an essential is also a tiny screwdriver that fits in the head of because a high quality hoop has some sort of screwing mechanism where you can physically use a tool and tighten it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you don't think about it, but it is an essential.
Agreed. Actually. Actually agreed. Good job, Hannah.
Look at
I don't have
us.
anything else almost.
Okay, so I think we should move on to a segment that I've wanted to do for a while,
Okay.
which is talking about specific DMC colors.
Okay.
Did you pick a color?
I did.
Oh, I'm so excited.
DMC Color
Okay.
if it was a person, right? That's gonna be the name of it.
If it were a person yeah, because 'cause I'm gonna describe why I
Yeah.
love it so much.
So we wanna
Okay.
pick, each of us, we're gonna do that independently
Mhm.
beforehand, pick
Yeah.
a DMC color. Luckily, they have loads, like
Mhm.
500. We should be okay for, like, 250 episodes.
I don't know, I feel like we have some similar color favorites though, so it'd be hilarious if
True.
we picked the same. I tried to pick one that I didn't think you were gonna pick today.
I didn't go for any of the teals, which I thought you would pick. You didn't pick a teal?
Which is so funny because no, I did,
Oh, you
but when you look up this color online, in the descriptions, they call it a dark green, which is
oh,
hilarious. It
what?
is not green.
Okay, tell me what color that is.
Okay, so the DMC color that I've picked today is DMC 924, which is
That's blue, dude.
it's blue.
That's not
But for
dark
some if you
green.
okay, Google it and look at what the descriptions say of it. It's so weird. I was like, I am thinking of the wrong color.
100% blue. I love 924, you joking?
I
It's the
know
best.
it's such a beautiful color. It's blue though.
It is
It's like
100% blue.
maybe leans a little bit on the teal side, but if you read the
No.
description of it, it calls it do you see that though?
Wait, where
They
do I
call it
check the
green.
I don't know where to check.
Just like if you just search DMC 924 and,
Good.
like, read what pops up.
And nothing pops up, just where to buy it pops up.
It calls it like a light emerald or something. And I was like, "No, it is not." I don't know
What?
what is
That's
happening.
crazy. So,
Anyway,
yeah, no. No,
this
it's like washed
this
dark
is
blue.
924. It honestly
It's kinda like your hair.
it is just like such a pretty blue color. It's very calm. Like if I were to like talk about this color's personality,
Please.
it's warm and inviting. It blends. If this were a person, it's one of those like can hang out with anybody. You know what I mean? Like
Agreed.
not going to be necessarily the center of attention, but like you notice if they're not at a party. You know?
Yeah.
That's this color. And this color is dependable, so dependable. It's like a camouflage kind of color. Like I feel like it blends so well with other colors.
Mm.
And it's a community builder, this one. 924. It is one of my favorites, and it's in 2 or 3 of my kits, and it's in a couple of yours too.
Oh, absolutely. 924 is used trust. I love it. I love that you picked that one. You're gonna be
This is
amused
my
by
color.
mine as well. I
Okay,
love
what's
it.
yours?
Thank you for sharing that. When you started saying
Yeah.
yours, I was like, "You're fucking kidding me." Mine is 920. Only 4
Oh
numbers
my god!
behind.
See? Also dependable. I also enjoy 920.
I am in love with 920. Like, think Brave from Brave.
Mm,
Like her
yes.
hair color, like this
Yes.
rich orange, but it's like burnt
Oh, it's
orange a
so
little bit.
beautiful.
It's kinda like one of those oranges that you cannot not love. It's like the rust type of orange, very bright. It's more red than yellow is what I would say.
Also, for anybody who is curious, Vika has memorized almost all of the DMC colors. She will say she doesn't, but she does. And if you go into a
Only the
store
ones
with
I
her
use.
and there's video proof and you hold up random ones and you don't show her the numbers, she's going to be at least within like 2 numbers close to whatever if she doesn't get it right. Versus me, I go in and I'm like,
We should do that. We should do the game again. It's gonna be hard to
again?
do with
Maybe, yeah. We can do that.
that.
But I wonder how everybody watching, how is your skill with knowing the DMC colors? I'm getting better. I'm now making a conscious choice of trying to remember the color names and what the colors actually are
You know, only the ones that I
because of you.
use, I'm good at remembering because, like, I get to know them very well, I think.
That's not true. I held up some of the ugliest colors neither one of us used when we went into that craft store, and you knew them.
Well, because I'm a hater at heart. I will know which ones I don't like. I'm joking.
Oh, okay. I love that.
I'm not a hater.
Yeah, so we're gonna start adding this segment. Tell us what your favorite color is in the comments. I want to know. Like, legit, am curious.
Okay, actually, that's gonna be my relatable or not. Should we do relatable or not segment now?
Yeah, let's. Yeah.
Relatable or not? You tell me. For me, and I think people will relate, but we'll see. You know, like you wake up in the morning and you like look at the clock and the clock says 9:24 and you're like, I know exactly
You're
what
like,
color that is. Literally, and every time I look at the clock, I'm like, I know what that color is. I know what it is. It's 3:33. It's like purple. It's beautiful. It's
Oh,
729. Oh, that's like beige.
I think I saw that there was an account that was like using the color of the day. So if it was like January, whatever day, January 29th, then they looked up color 129 and then would stitch with that color.
I love that. That's fucking smart.
I
That's
do too.
creativity. That's creativity. But I wonder, is that relatable? Do you see at the clock and you're like, I know what color that is?
Nope, that is a Vika specific.
I think you're gonna do it now. It's actually the
Okay,
best.
my relatable or not is I'm probably going to be shamed for it. And I'm just prepared. You know what? I'm throwing myself to the wolves. Are you ready for it?
So ready.
Relatable or not? I really hope other people relate because I'm going to reveal a side of myself. Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
I own hundreds of needles. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Hundreds. I have bags and bags of them.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, I will use a needle and it will lose its tarnish. It will bend and it will perfectly fit in my hand. And I use needle sharpeners specifically because of this, because I know many people are like, I didn't even know a needle sharpener existed. Why don't you just throw it away and start with a new one?
It's not easy.
I know, but for some reason, I get emotionally attached to specific needles and I will use them until they fucking snap in my hand.
Yeah. Hannah, that is relatable. But also that is not great practice. I'm gonna say that.
It is terrible practice. And when I like finally break my needle or lose it, because let's face it, that also happens to me all the time.
That is not good. I've
People are like,
slept on your floor. You should have warned me.
I mean, I don't lose them on the floor. I
But how
lose
do you
them
know
like
you lose
on my
them?
desk.
You lose them.
I cleaned before you got here. I've like made
You
sure there
should be
weren't
shamed.
rogue needles.
You were right.
But when I go to get a new needle after that experience and I start stitching with a new needle, I'm like, oh. Last needle was so bad.
Okay, I'll open the secret
And
to no, actually that's not it. I made like a whole series just talking about needles. Like there's probably 10 videos. I literally
oh yes.
research
Yeah,
needles
yeah.
on
Yeah.
crazy levels. And one of the things that people couldn't believe is that most manufacturers of hand needles will actually tell you that this needle is good for like 20 hours of use or 40 hours of use tops. Some of them will be like even 5, 6 hours, and that is it. You're supposed to throw it away because all needles or good needles will be coated in a specific type of metal type thing, and it's the coating
To
is very
finish,
thin,
yeah.
and that wears out. The way that I know how when my needle is fucked is it starts squeaking.
It like
Yeah,
yes.
that's it. Like as soon as it starts squeaking, that's a goodbye. That's a goodbye for me because I
Yeah.
can't handle it. And then you pick up a brand new one. It's
Yeah, the
so
squeaking
smooth.
bothers me.
Yeah,
I will throw it away when it starts squeaking. So
yeah,
I'm right there with you.
yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's just your oils, your finger oils.
I don't
Yeah,
know. And it's the same thing, to throw myself even more under the bus. It's the same thing with those thimble pads. I will reuse a thimble pad over and over again until
and it doesn't stick
it
anymore.
barely wants to stick.
It's like hanging out by like a little bit.
But they like get so
Agreed.
comfortable and like molded to your finger so
Oh, for
well.
sure. Those thimble pads are freaking the best, honestly. Everybody needs to get
Mm.
some. We both sell them, by the way, just
I
if you want to check them out.
Yeah. I hope we're not alone in
I don't think we are. There's
our
no
my little
way.
relatable or
There's
not.
no way. There's no
Okay,
way. I can relate to your needle stuff.
I'm glad.
Okay.
So the other thing that I wanted to do as a segment was doing like an artist shout out,
Mhm.
which we didn't talk about if we were gonna like make it to like having like a smaller account or like what the size, if the size of the account
I don't think it
matters at all.
matters. Just
Okay.
literally, I would let my heart dictate like a few days before we record it. If anybody
Yeah,
just pops up and I have one.
I have one too.
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
And I have always loved her. I mean, I can't remember how long I've been following her, but I've always loved her art. And she has a smaller account, and I just landscapes. So also, I
Oh.
mean, kindred spirits like us. And her name's, I want to say it's Oksana,
Mhm,
Oksana,
mhm.
Oksana. I don't want to
Oksana.
butcher her name. Oksana. And her handle is le dot and then point
Mhm,
point. So le point o.
mhm.
And her work is so beautiful. She mixes paints sometimes with a little bit of fabric
Wow.
collage, beading.
Wow, that's
She does
awesome.
sun rays really well, but it's also very clean and like I don't want to
Beautiful.
say simple because it's not simple, but like she just
It's
has
called
such a
aesthetic.
yeah, like she just has
Yeah,
a very clean aesthetic,
that's
and
beautiful.
I love her color
Minimal is
palettes.
probably what I would say.
Yeah. And she just does it incredibly well. Like, and you can tell, like, if I'm scrolling on my,
I
that's one
love
of
it.
my favorite things about artists is when
Yeah.
I'm scrolling, if I don't see the name of the account and I know who it is, her work is one of, and I just
She
love it.
uses loads of watercolor and, like,
Yeah.
patchwork techniques. I
Mhm.
love
Like
that,
she
that's
does a little
beautiful.
fabric collage, like applique
Yeah,
on the top. It's so beautiful.
that is
So
beautiful. It looks like she
she's,
started landscapes not long ago, though. I'm not sure.
yeah, like I don't think she's always done, but her stuff pre landscape though, also beautiful.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
just,
Very, like, she knows her color theory, you can tell.
yes. Oh, it's so satisfying. And
That's
it,
nice.
nothing ever seems out of place, like, it's never too much, like, I just really
Yeah.
respect
I'll put it
her
on the
artistry.
screen, her handle tag, but
Yeah.
again, it's le.point.o. Everybody go give her a follow. Thank you, Hannah. I've never heard of her before, never
Yeah.
come across, so that's awesome, yeah.
Yeah, she has a little baby
Beautiful.
account, and I, like, don't understand why, because I just love her stuff so much.
Yeah, post the consistency, that's the one.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Who's yours?
Mine is her name is Susanna. She is
Mm.
from Scotland. Her handle, you'll probably know her. You probably know her. Her handle is it's ODINADDI.
Yes.
You know her.
Mm. Yes.
So
Love
again,
her stuff.
color theory girl. She knows
Beautiful
her
color
stuff.
theory.
She recently
Mhm.
released this pattern that she did, literally including probably over 300 different DMC colors. She does
Oh
thread
my gosh,
painting.
it's so beautiful.
And so she matched a bunch of
So
different
beautiful.
colors and built gradients,
Mhm.
because, it doesn't work with embroidery same as, like, all other art, we can't mix thread colors, so we have to work with what we got, which is 500 colors tops.
Mhm.
And sometimes people struggle building beautiful gradients, very, like, cohesive,
Mhm.
smooth gradients, that's difficult, so she went and literally built this crazy rainbow, and it's all gradient.
It is
Amazing. You
so
can actually grab
satisfying.
that pattern. She is
Yes.
insane for the price that she's put it on. I was like, "You are
Right?
crazy." Yeah.
Agreed.
So everybody go support
Also,
her.
it is the fact that it is, like, getting like, it's a practice for thread painting, and it's a practice in color theory, but the other part that just blows my mind, you could legit frame just that when
Mhm.
you're done, and it is, like it is such a is so satisfying. Like, it's not
Beautiful.
I feel like there's a lot of, like, stitch guide kind of patterns
Yeah,
that are
no, there
around.
isn't. Actually, thread painters gatekeep their information their, like, knowledge
Yeah.
of thread color gradients very
Mhm.
tightly, which is annoying, but she's made this
Yeah.
whole thing, and she went into I mean, I can't even believe the
S
amount of work put into this pattern.
Right.
Actually crazy. I believe there's 20 different colors, different color gradients
It
that you
sh
can get.
And it just blows my mind because there are tons of tutorials on, like, stitch guides, right? So, like, just
Mhm,
specifically,
mm,
like, how to do different stitches,
mhm.
but I don't think there's anything out there specifically like what she created, and it is just so refreshing to see somebody
Yeah,
share their knowledge like that, and she does it so beautifully.
yeah, it's
That is such a
awesome.
good shout out.
Absolutely, yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, so again,
Go
handle type,
follow
I'll
them.
put it on, it's ODINADDI. These both are for Instagram, just FYI. Cool. I love our shout outs.
I know, me too. They're so refreshing. Also, just
Agree.
like I hope we have so many episodes of this podcast a week because there are so many talented artists that are out there and it's really hard to
Yeah, I'm a little bit
choose.
annoyed at us that we didn't do it in the first 2 episodes.
I know.
But it's okay, today we're doing, like, half of the episode is just segments that we thought of that we're like, "Oh, we're gonna include
You
that."
know, I'm here for it. I hope other people are too.
I can think of 2 more segments, and I think only
Mm,
1 that we discussed, and 1 more is, a
it's a
surprise, which I
surprise.
mentioned, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm here for it. Well, the one that I think we talked about were trends.
Yes, that's the one.
Trends we love, trends we hate, that we see on social
Everything
media
trends.
and in the art world.
Yeah, you go, 'cause I just talked forever.
Okay, so the trend that I wanted to point out, and I'm curious to see how people feel about it, is like micro crochet or micro knitting with embroidery floss
Uh-huh,
in
uh-huh.
projects. I think it's so freaking cool.
Yeah.
And my brain cannot comprehend because I cannot crochet for shit.
So
I can knit, but I think it's because if you learn one before the other, it's like hard to do the opposite one. I have tried crocheting so many times, and then I watch those accounts where the embroidery floss is so tiny, and then they're doing it, and it's so tiny.
yeah, it's crazy. It's like the I actually was a few times tempted.
Obsessed.
I bought on Etsy, not bought, but attempted to buy tiny little animals, like tiny cats, like
Yeah,
literally not even an inch tall,
little
like fully cat. What crazy?
I love miniature things in general, but the fact that that's like
Yeah.
micro crochet and micro knit with embroidery floss is like so
Yeah, I
satisfying.
agree. It's actually crazy. I love that you brought that up. There's a few
So that's
artists
the trend.
that I follow that do that
Yeah.
stuff, and I bet it's so difficult, but many
Yeah.
things you can't go wrong with. You just can't.
Yeah, I'm never gonna be against
Many anything.
a mini project.
Agreed. Oh, I love that. I love that. Trend that I wanted to bring up, and it's not. I guess it's not really a trend, but it made some headlines. So round about Christmas time, and I'll put some pictures on the screen. This one brand called Fendi. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right.
You are.
Brought up a new product on the market. Fendi is like a clothing accessory
Phew.
brand, extremely expensive,
Fendi's
very
high
posh.
end.
Yeah.
Koreans love. Koreans love a good
Oh, fair enough.
Fendi bag.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm not about that stuff, but it made some headlines. They
Same.
made a purse,
Yeah.
and the purse came with their own branded embroidery floss, needles, and 2 metal thimbles, and I think something else, maybe a couple needles. I already said needles. Anyway, I mean, it was a kit, and it was
It's a
called
kit.
baguette. You know
Uh-huh.
why they called it that.
So crazy.
It's actually insane, the fact that they did it,
You're gonna put
and
it on the
guess how
screen.
much it cost?
I know it's a lot.
Guess
How much does it cost?
guess
$3,000.
$3,000?
3,000. That's my guess.
$4,000, Hannah.
I wasn't that bad. I wasn't that off. I know Fendi's
Not bad.
expensive. My Korean mother loves Fendi.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, they have I'm looking at it right now. It looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Like 5, 6, 7 different types of floss. They have some, like, metal
Mhm.
ones, some, color variations
Mhm.
ones. They have 1 pack of needles, 3 metal thimbles, as if you're gonna need 3 metal thimbles. Like, there's nothing else in there. Not even a pair of
Yeah.
scissors or anything. Like, talk about a shit kit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a very nice one, but,
Yeah,
I
like,
mean,
by the way, this was around Christmas time, so it was like,
yeah,
gift somebody a project, but
gift
extremely
giving.
expensive one if that's your budget, but also you can still buy it, so you tell me how well that trended.
I mean, it's also like it's the same thing like luxury brands, like, I mean, my infamous video where you could sell a $700 paperclip.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay. It's not gonna be more functional than any other paperclip. Same thing with that embroidery thread.
'Cause embroidery was so hot in 2023, and it's projected
It
to be even hotter
was.
in
Yes.
2024, that I think more brands will hop on this train and turn something ordinary into an embroidery kit.
Okay, so that is a segment, and sometimes it'll be trends we can't stand.
Just something that made headlines, you know?
Yeah, like, it's cool that embroidery is getting a little bit of, like, a beautiful golden moment. I love that. I love that for
I
us.
agree. Then
Okay,
nothing
what's
really
this
against it.
segment?
Okay, I guess you're going to fucking love this segment, and I can't
Okay.
believe you didn't think of it. The segment is going to be
Okay.
called controversial with a question mark if you didn't hear that in my voice. And I already have 4
Okay.
things written down. And like I promised, I'm gonna bring up the one that I thought to bring up, which relates to Milner's needles that we talked about at the beginning.
Okay.
And then we'll wrap it up because we already been recording for a while. You're welcome to think on the spot while I'm telling you about my
Okay.
controversial statement,
Yeah.
but don't feel pressured. You can prepare some for next time. So
Okay.
I'm gonna say this, and I fully stand behind it, okay? And you can argue me, you cannot argue me. I don't give a fuck, okay?
Okay.
Embroidery needles are the worst needles for embroidery. How's that for controversial? I stand by that. I think embroidery
I
needles need to be discontinued, please. They're only good for like one type of embroidery, only if you're using
Mm.
multiple floss strands, which is a shit idea anyway. They're not good for anything else. But even then, they're not better than other needles. So,
You just threw out 2 controversial statements in one.
what was it?
If you're using multiple strands of floss and you're like, "Which you
Oh,
shouldn't be doing."
true. Damn it. Should have saved that
You
one.
just you just snuck that one in there.
Oh, damn it,
Which
damn it.
also going back to talking about, like, how we arrived to embroidery, I had mentioned, I thought, like, "Are there any funny stories?"
Oh, yeah.
I did embroidery when I was younger as a kid and then, like, learned with my grandma, and I think she split my thread for me. I never divided my thread. So for anybody who's new to embroidery or doesn't embroider, most embroidery thread that you buy is it's stranded cotton and it comes in 6 strands. And a lot of people when they first start out, they use the whole bundle. They use all 6 strands because they don't realize that you can separate or should separate your strands.
Yeah, that's another reason why it looks like, it might look like shit
Yeah, when
because
it
that
doesn't look
thread
very
becomes
good.
twisted. Like, it doesn't look good.
Yeah, it doesn't look good, and so, for the first couple projects when I first started coming back to embroidery as an adult, I was like, "Why does this look so bulky and weird?" And, like, "Why am I having such a hard time?" I'm, like, fighting my needle to get my thread through, and then I,
Oh,
like, looked it up and it
12 imagine pulling 12 strands through Kona. That would kill me. That's impossible, by the way.
It's
Like,
just
you'd
like
have to
my
make
hand.
such a massive hole in the weaves.
I'm getting like tendinitis. Just think,
Me
like my
too, me
arthritis
too.
is flaring
My
just thinking
fingers
about
are
it.
sweating up because, like, that's what I imagine, like, you just can't get it out, and then because you're getting frustrated, like, there's sweat, and so you can't get it out even worse.
Yeah, and for anybody who is new, like, if you like how you separate floss, some people will pull, like, 2 strands with this hand and, like, force they're trying to take 2 strands apart, and you just try and pull it apart, and then it, like, gets all mixed up, and some people will put, like, the rest of the thread in their mouth
Oh, yeah, that's
and,
not the
like,
best
pull
way
at
to
the
do it.
same time. So the best way to separate embroidery floss is actually just to hold it in your hand loosely with one
Between
hand, and
2
you
with 2
pull
fingers.
one piece of thread at a time, and you pull directly up, and just do one at a time. And then once you have all of your strands, then you put them back together and flatten them out. That's actually gonna be the easiest way, and it doesn't knot that way.
Yeah.
So that was my
It'll bunch up, but then it fall back.
yeah, and by the time that I had come back to embroidery, like, as a serious hobby and possibly as a business idea, I asked my grandmother, I was like, "Did you always separate my floss for me?" And she looked at me like I was crazy, but also she was losing her mind. Her dementia was pretty far set by that point. And she
Mhm.
just laughed and she was like, "You silly girl." That, like, I wasn't dividing my floss previously. So she totally did it for me as a kid,
Wow.
which
Yeah,
what a
that's
beautiful love language to
mhm.
separate floss for your kid or grandkid.
Yeah.
Do you have any funny stories about your beginning?
I remember buying embroidery floss from a supermarket at one point just because I saw it and I was like, "Ooh, embroidery floss." That was my
Yeah.
spree of buying everything that I could get my hands on, like,
Mm.
just to see what's good, what's not. That was not a
Yeah.
good decision. Do not buy embroidery floss from a supermarket. Not a good idea.
No. Or like if you go to a hobby store and you see a big bag of random colors in like a plastic bag and it looks like decent, but none of the colors are numbered or anything, and it's like an off brand, just don't buy it because it's not necessarily that it's just because it's an off brand, but like you go to use it and it'll like pull apart. Like the fibers don't stay together.
Hannah, we need to save this for the embroidery floss
For the
episode.
other one. Okay. Sorry.
It's
Don't
okay,
buy the
I mean,
off-brands, they're terrible.
because if you're gonna start, I'm not gonna be able to stop.
That's
You know
true,
what I
that's
mean?
true.
But yeah, that was my
Okay.
controversials. I think embroidery needles are the worst fucking needles for embroidery. I'm not
Wow.
sorry to say that.
I would disagree. I think tapestry needles would be the worst because tapestry needles are
Okay,
dull.
fair, but I mean,
But
come on.
I don't know.
I'm saying that there's better needles for embroidery than embroidery, which is named after the craft, which sucks. Like,
So then people just automatically assume to
yeah.
go to that one.
Yeah, but there's so many
Yeah.
flaws in embroidery needles. You'd think there's just a needle. It's sharp, it's long, it's a tiny piece of metal with a
Mm-mm.
hole on the
It
top.
really does make a
There's
difference.
so much
Yeah.
that goes into a
Mm.
needle that and I think embroidery needles they're just not great for embroidery. I don't think they're great for anything.
Yeah.
They're so tiny. They're so small,
Mm.
incredibly short, and it hurts fingers.
I
Like
like short needles.
yeah, but because you work with, like, really intricate fabric, so it makes sense to go for that kind of thing, but then
Yeah.
again, it doesn't use Milner's. Milner's better.
I do like using a Milner. You have turned me on to them. I do like a Milner. Let the
Yeah.
record show.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people will disagree, disag what? Disagree. I can't talk anymore, but yeah, that's where I stand. I hate embroidery needles. I'll never
Okay.
recommend them. I've never recommended them,
Mm.
ever, and I will never will.
All right. That
Alright.
is controversial. I have
'Cause
one, and it's anybody who knows me, it is, I'm sure, controversial to other people, but to me, it's not. I stand by it 100%. DMC metallic sucks.
oh,
Don't
yeah.
do it.
Oh, yeah, DMC, anything that's not cotton.
Anything that's not just the regular cotton thread, throw it in your bin, as Bika would say.
Oh, and satin
It.
thread. Again, Hannah, why do you have to bring up the thread again? We'll save it for the episode.
But y'all, don't do it. Don't.
Don't do
Please
it.
use literally any other brand of metallic thread. Just please, dear Lord, don't. That's why so many people hate metallic thread. People are like, metallic thread is the devil. No, it's specifically DMC metallic. It sucks.
So would you recommend Sulky?
Sulky, hands down. Gutermann, Anchor, even like I could go on. Pretty
Okay.
Punch. There are so many so many brands that I can think of, but Sulky is the bee's knees, is the top. The reason being, all of their threads are made to go through machines or like it's multi-purpose, all-purpose thread. So you don't find it in the embroidery section. You find it in the all-purpose thread section of most hobby stores. And because of that, because it's designed to go through machinery and go back and forth and be wound, it's so much stronger and dependable when you are hand stitching.
Fair enough.
I can. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Also, it doesn't come stranded. Like, why is metallic thread stranded in DMC? Like, their light effects and stuff, it's still in 6 strands. It makes 0 sense.
Yeah,
and then
nobody's
it's just like
gonna
a
use all
knotty
6.
mess. And the trick of squeezing and pulling up does not work with synthetic
Yeah.
fibers. That works for cotton.
Yeah.
I could go. We do need to make this a whole new episode.
Exactly. Why'd you bring it up?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll bring
have
it up
to wrap
again.
it up. We'll have to wrap it up because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
already
yeah.
an hour and a half, and
Gosh, time flies when you're hanging out with friends.
I know.
Next time, you know what I realized?
What?
We talked about having this podcast as like, you know, like a bitch and stitch kind of thing.
Yeah,
Neither one of us ever stitch when we're recording.
Yeah, I thought about that actually. I love that you named it Bitch and Stitch instead of Stitch and Bitch. Bitch comes first in your mind.
Always.
I love that. I love that. But yeah,
I'm a party,
maybe next
okay?
time. Maybe next time.
Next time. I did have somebody mention to me once, and I'm curious if I got a message. I should have forwarded it to you, but I got a message from someone that was like, "You guys should do lives together so we can like actually
Stitch and
like
Bitch.
hang out and stitch."
Yeah,
And
that's a good idea.
lives have always made me nervous, but maybe if we did one together, maybe we should do that. Is there interest?
Oh, yeah,
People who
let
are
us
watching,
know.
is
We'll
that something you would want us to do?
If we would do it, we'd probably do
I
it
think
on
it'd be fun.
TikTok. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's an easy one, and we could like invite guests if people wanna come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, let us know. Let us know. Okay, we're gonna wrap this up.
Okay.
Give us a follow. We're on Instagram, TikTok, everywhere.
YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, YouTube is our primary. Please watch the podcast. You can watch it on YouTube. That'll be the best quality. And then you can also watch it on Spotify if you use the apps or the browser. Give us a follow on wherever you listen. Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. We don't have any reviews.
Yes, please give us a review. Yeah, review us, please. If you think it's terrible, then you don't have to leave a review.
Leave a terrible review. But be a hater.
I mean, this is a fun little project for us. We're not planning on this ever going like big or, like that's not our goal.
We don't care.
So please, if you enjoy just like hanging out with us for the hour or so, since we can never keep it to an hour, we would love to hear from you in a review, in comments. So just let us know.
We also have like a Q&A on Spotify if that's where you listen.
Yes.
There's going to be a poll. We always put something fun in there, and also a Q&A, like a question that you can answer to.
Yeah.
So check that out. Thank you for getting in stitched with us today. We appreciate you being here.
Bye.
Bye. I hope you had fun.
I did. Did you have fun? I thought it was fun.
I thought it was fun.
Hello and welcome to Unstitched, the podcast. Unstitched podcast, not the podcast. See, I tried. I can't do it anymore.